Something inside you, something older than your name, deeper than your memories, quieter than your thoughts, brought you to this exact moment. And I know what that something is. You carry a frequency that most people on this planet will never possess, not because they are lesser, but because they are asleep. They are comfortable in their sleep. They have made peace with the fog. But you could never make peace with it, could you? There has always been a war inside you, a restlessness that no relationship could soothe, no achievement could silence, no amount of money, praise, or distraction could ever fully quiet. And the world looked at you and said, "Something is wrong with you." But nothing is wrong with you. What is happening to you has a name. Carl Jung, the great Swiss psychiatrist, a man who descended into his own unconscious and returned with maps of the human soul, called it individuation. It is the most sacred psychological process a human being can undergo. It is the journey of becoming whole, of integrating every fragment, every shadow, every abandoned piece of yourself into one unified self. And if you're watching this right now, feeling chills, feeling that strange electricity behind your sternum, then you're already inside the process. You just didn't have the language for it. Until now. Today, I am going to give you 7 unmistakable signs that individuation has already begun in your life. These are not theories. These are not motivational platitudes. These are psychospiritual markers that have been documented across centuries of depth psychology, mythology, and mystical tradition. Most people will never understand what you're going through. That is not arrogance. That is arithmetic. The path of individuation is narrow. Not everyone is called, and fewer still have the courage to answer. But you are still here. So let us begin. Before we walk through the 7 signs, I need to lay the foundation, because if you do not understand what individuation truly is, the signs will sound like symptoms of a problem. And they are not a problem, they're an awakening. Carl Jung spent his entire life studying one central question. What does it mean to become who you truly are? Not who your parents told you to be, not who society rewarded you for performing, not the mask, what Jung called the persona, that you constructed just to survive childhood, adolescence, relationships, careers. No. Who are you beneath all of that? Jung discovered that the human psyche is not a single entity. It is a vast, layered, almost infinite inner world. And most of it, the overwhelming majority of it, is unconscious. Your conscious mind, your ego, your daily thoughts, your identity is the tip of the iceberg. Beneath the surface lies the personal unconscious. Your repressed memories, forgotten wounds, buried desires, abandoned dreams. And beneath even that lies something ancient, something that does not belong to you alone. Jung called it the collective unconscious, an ocean of archetypes, symbols, and primordial patterns shared by every human being who has ever lived. The hero, the shadow, the anima, the animus, the wise old man, the great mother, the self. These are not metaphors. These are living forces inside your psyche. And during individuation, they begin to surface. They rise like creatures from the deep. They appear in your dreams. They possess your emotions. They disrupt your carefully constructed life. And the ego, your small, comfortable, familiar sense of I, begins to crack. This cracking is not destruction. It is hatching. Individuation is the process by which the ego surrenders its throne and allows a deeper center, what Jung called the self, to emerge as the true organizing principle of your life. The self is not the ego. The self contains the ego. The self contains everything, light and dark, masculine and feminine, creation and destruction, order and chaos. To individuate is to hold all of it, to reject nothing, to integrate everything. And it is the hardest thing a human being will ever do. Now, here are the seven signs that this sacred process has already begun in you. The first sign is that you feel a deep, unexplainable loneliness, even when surrounded by people. This is usually the first sign, and it is the most painful one. You're at a gathering, a family dinner, a party, a work event. People are talking, laughing, performing the rituals of social existence, and you feel nothing. No, worse than nothing. You feel a chasm, a distance between you and everyone around you that you cannot explain and cannot bridge. It is not that you dislike them. It is not that you're antisocial. It is that something inside you has shifted. The frequency you are now operating on does not match the frequency of ordinary social reality anymore. You try to engage, you say the right words, you smile at the right times, but inside there's a voice whispering, "This is not real. This is not where you belong. There's something else, something deeper, something truer." And that voice terrifies you, because if you follow it, you might lose everything familiar. Jung wrote, "Loneliness does not come from having no people around you, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to you." This loneliness is not a curse, it is a calling. It is the self pulling you away from the collective so that you can hear your own voice for the first time. The caterpillar must separate itself from the colony before it can enter the cocoon. You are not broken, you are preparing to transform. But most people will not understand this. They will say you are depressed. They will say you need to get out more. They will say you are overthinking. Let them. They are speaking from outside the cocoon. They cannot see what is happening inside. The second sign is that your shadow is becoming impossible to ignore. Everyone is a shadow. Jung defined it as the part of yourself that you have rejected, repressed, and hidden, usually because in childhood that part was punished, shamed, or made to feel dangerous. Your anger, your sexuality, your ambition, your grief, your wildness, your power. Whatever was too much for the world around you, you buried it. You pushed it beneath the surface. You pretended it did not exist. And for a while, that worked. But during individuation, the shadow refuses to stay buried. It begins to leak. It begins to erupt. You find yourself suddenly enraged at small things. You have dreams of violence, of forbidden desire, of chaos. You become obsessed with people who embody the traits you have denied in yourself. You project your shadow onto others. You despise in them what you cannot face in yourself. Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." This is not regression. This is not you getting worse. This is your psyche demanding integration. The shadow is not your enemy. The shadow is your unlived life. It contains not only your darkness, but also your dormant gold, your unrecognized talents, your unclaimed power, your authentic voice. Jung called this the gold in the shadow. The task of individuation is not to destroy the shadow, it is to face it, to sit with it, to say, "I see you, I know you, you are me, and I will no longer pretend you do not exist." This is the moment the warrior meets their own reflection in the dark water and does not look away. If you are in this stage right now, if the shadow is screaming, take a breath. You are exactly where you need to be. The third sign is that you begin to question every identity you have ever held. Who are you? Not your job title, not your relationship status, not your nationality, your religion, your political affiliation, your social media bio. Who are you? During individuation, this question becomes a fire. It burns through every label you have ever worn, every role you've ever played, every identity that was handed to you by family, culture, education, and expectation. Jung called these constructed identities the persona, the mask we wear to navigate social life. And there is nothing inherently wrong with the persona. We all need one. It is a social tool. But doing individuation, you begin to realize you have confused the mask with the face. You have been so identified with your roles, the good daughter, the successful professional, the strong one, the caretaker, the rebel, that you've forgotten there's someone beneath the mask. And now the mask is cracking. You wake up one morning and think, I don't know who I am anymore. You look at your career and think, did I choose this? Or was I programmed to choose this? You look at your relationships and think, am I loved for who I am or for who I perform? This is terrifying because the ego's greatest fear is dissolution. The ego wants certainty. It wants a fixed identity. It wants to know, I am this. But the self whispers back, you are more than any single this. You are the ocean pretending to be a single wave. If you are in a dismantling stage, if everything you thought you were is falling apart, I need you to hear this clearly. You are not falling apart. You are falling together for the first time. The fourth sign is that synchronicities begin appearing everywhere. You see the number 1111 repeatedly without looking for it. You think of someone you haven't spoken to in years and they call you that afternoon. You are struggling with a specific question and you overhear a conversation between strangers that contains the exact answer. A book falls off a shelf. You open it to a random page, and the words there describe your inner life with surgical precision. These are not coincidences. Jung coined a term for this, synchronicity. Meaningful coincidences that have no causal explanation but carry profound personal significance. During individuation, synchronicities accelerate. They become undeniable. They become almost conversational, as if the universe itself is responding to your inner transformation with external signs. Why does this happen? Because as you descend into the unconscious, as you begin to integrate the fragmented parts of your psyche, you align with the deeper patterns of the collective unconscious. You tap into the same archetypal field that governs myth, dream, and nature. And that field speaks, not in words, in events, in symbols, in the poetic logic of the soul. If synchronicities are flooding your life right now, do not dismiss them. Do not rationalize them away. They are breadcrumbs on the path. They are the self saying, you are going the right way, keep walking. And right now, as you watch this video, if you are experiencing a synchronicity, if something I have said has struck a chord so deep that it feels like I am speaking directly to your soul, I want you to type the number 777 in the comments below, the number of spiritual completion, of divine alignment, of a soul that is ready to become whole. Type it now, not as a game, not as a trend, as a declaration, as a signal to the frequency field that you are awake, that you are willing, that you are here. And watch what happens in your life within the next 48 hours after you type it. The field responds to those who declare themselves. The fifth sign is that you develop an intense, almost painful need for authenticity. There was a time when you could tolerate small talk, when you could attend social functions and play the game, when you could smile and nod and say I'm fine when you were drowning. That time is over. During individuation, the tolerance for inauthenticity in yourself and in others drops to nearly zero. You cannot pretend anymore. Physically, it becomes almost unbearable. Your body rejects it. Your throat tightens when you try to say words you do not mean. Your chest aches when you enter spaces that demand performance. You begin to crave truth the way a dehydrated body craves water. You want real conversations. You want people who speak from their wounds, not from their curated image. You want art that bleeds. You want silence that breathes. You want a life that means something. And this makes you inconvenient, because the social contract is built on a certain amount of agreed upon pretending. And when you stop pretending, people become uncomfortable. They don't say it directly, but they pull away. They stop inviting you. They label you too intense, too deep, too much. Jung said, the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. Let them label you. Because what is actually happening is this: you are no longer willing to betray your soul for the comfort of others. You are no longer willing to shrink yourself to fit rooms that were never built for you. This is not selfishness. This is sovereignty. This is the ego stepping aside so the self can breathe. And the relationships that survive this purification, the people who stay when you stop performing, those are your people. Those are your soul's allies. Hold on to them. Let the rest go with love. The sixth sign is that you experience a dark night of the soul. This is the sign that no one warns you about, and it is the one that almost breaks you. There comes a point in the individuation process where everything collapses, not gradually, not gently, catastrophically. Your relationship ends, your career implodes, your health fails, your belief system shatters, the ground beneath your feet simply disappears, and you fall. You fall into a darkness so complete that you cannot see your own hands. You cannot feel your own edges. You do not know where you end and the abyss begins. This is what the mystics call the dark night of the soul, what the alchemists called the nigredo, the blackening, what Jung called the nekia, the descent into the underworld. It is the ego's death, not physical death, something more frightening, the death of who you thought you were, the obliteration of the false self, the annihilation of every story, every coping mechanism, every defense that you built to protect yourself from the enormity of your own existence. And in that darkness, in that annihilation, something extraordinary happens. You discover that you are still here, beneath the roles, beneath the achievements, beneath the wounds, beneath the persona and the shadow and the projected identities. Something remains, something indestructible, something luminous, something ancient, the self. Jung described the self as the God within, the totality of the psyche, the center and circumference of the inner world. It is the archetype of wholeness. It is what you have been searching for in every relationship, every achievement, every spiritual practice, every sleepless night. It was inside you all along. The dark night does not destroy you. It reveals you. And when you emerge, and you will emerge, you will be fundamentally, irreversibly different. Not louder, not flashier, not more successful by the world's standards, but whole, quiet, grounded, unshakable, like a mountain that has been through a million storms and no longer flinches at thunder. If you're in the dark night right now, if you're in the blackest part of the blackness, I am not going to give you a platitude. I am not going to say, it gets better, because you have heard that 1,000 times, and it means nothing when you are suffocating. Instead, I will say this: the darkness is not punishing you. The darkness is forging you, and you would not be in it if you were not strong enough to survive it. Breathe, stay. The dawn is closer than you think. The seventh and final sign is that you feel called to a purpose that terrifies you. This is the final sign, and it is the most beautiful one. After the loneliness, after the shadow work, after the identity collapse, after the synchronicities, after the demand for authenticity, after the dark night of the soul, something emerges, a calling, not a career goal, not a 5-year plan, not a vision board fantasy, a calling, something that rises from the deepest part of your being and says, this is what you're here to do. This is what you were always meant to create, to heal, to build, to express, to offer. And it terrifies you because it is too big, too ambitious, too audacious, too real. The ego says, who are you to do this? And the soft response, who are you not to? Jung wrote, the shoe that fits one person pinches another. There's no recipe for living that suits all cases. Your calling will not look like anyone else's. It cannot be copied from a template. It cannot be validated by a market study. It is uniquely, irreducibly, cosmically yours. It might be art. It might be healing. It might be teaching, building, writing, parenting, leading, serving, creating something that does not yet exist in this world. Whatever it is, it will require you to become the person you have been individuating into this entire time. The purpose is not separate from the process. The process is the preparation. Every wound was training. Every collapse was clearing. Every dark night was initiation. You were not being punished. You were being prepared. If you have made it to this point in the video, all 20 minutes, without clicking away, without getting distracted, without your mind pulling you to something easier and more comfortable, then I want you to know something. You are rare. Not because you are watching a video, but because you are listening to yourself. You are honoring the call. You are paying attention to the process that most people spend their entire lives running from. Individuation is not for everyone, not because it is elitist, but because it demands everything. It demands you face what you have hidden. It demands you lose what you have clung to. It demands you become the person you were born to be, even when that person is unrecognizable to the world you came from. Carl Gustav Jung, in the final years of his extraordinary life, said something that I want to leave with you tonight. Something that I believe is the single most important sentence ever spoken about human existence. He said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." Read that again, let it land, let it penetrate the walls of your ego, the armor of your persona, the scar tissue of your wounds. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are, not who you were told to be, not who was safe to be, not who was acceptable to be, who you truly are. That is individuation. That is the path. That is the purpose. And you, right now, in this moment, are on it. Do not turn back. If this video spoke to something inside you that rarely gets spoken to, subscribe to this channel. Not for me, for you, so that the algorithm remembers that your soul is hungry. And so that the next time a message like this is released into the world, it finds you again. Share this with one person who you know is going through their own individuation, even if they do not have the word for it yet. Sometimes a single video, shared at the right moment, can change the trajectory of a soul. Type 777 in the comments if you felt it. And remember, you are not lost, you are becoming. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. C.G. Jung.